how Ruben Amorim's use of controlled chaos was able to swing the probabilities in Manchester United's favour, doing so with the tactical mentality throughout the whole game against Liverpool, but specifically at the start of the game for Mbeumo's opening goal. But what exactly do I mean by controlled chaos and swinging the probabilities in Manchester United's favour? Well, if you've watched my analysis videos on recent Manchester United games, in comparison to the opening game of the season against Arsenal, but even going back into last season as well, the major difference is the ball progression strategy. With United now being prepared to play a lot more direct and vertical, and less focus on controlling possession, which is a key tactical theme that we've seen throughout the Premier League this season, but also last season as well, with Andoni Iraola and Oliver Glasner doing this particularly well at Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, but we're now also seeing Arteta and also Pep himself do this as well. And whilst in previous games I have spoken about how this could be an issue against teams that are going to sit deep and compact, because United aren't going to be able to draw them high and exploit the space in behind their midfield line, in games such as the one over the weekend against Liverpool at Anfield, the actual benefit of going long and direct significantly outweighs the benefit of drawing in the press and then looking to play through and around it with shorter, sharper passes through the centre of the pitch. And this is because obviously you're able to minimise the risk of losing possession, not just in your own half, which is threatening in of itself, but also losing the ball when your possession shape is spread out. But it wasn't just going direct from the keeper which made the difference, it was also the possession shape, particularly of the back line, the midfield double pivot, the front three and also the wing backs, in particular Ahmad on this right side, and you're going to see that specifically in just a minute when I break down how Amorim was able to use controlled chaos in order to create the opportunity for Mbeumo using the tactical theories which I've just spoken about. But before I get into that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. They've got the new Manchester United releases for the upcoming season, with OK Jersey also allowing you to pick up high quality football shirts from just £15, plus free shipping across Europe for all orders over £45. They sent me over these new release alternative Manchester United jerseys from this season, as well as a long sleeved retro home shirt from the 92-93 season, with Cantona 7 on the back, alongside this Nuno Gomez Benfica shirt from the 97-98 season as well. If you use code ATLANTIS at checkout you'll get a discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comments section below. So in the lead up to Mbeumo's goal, we see Dalot has the ball in the final third, he plays a pass back to Luke Shaw, and now you can see that 3-2 setup at the base of United's possession system, with the back three pulling wide, and according to Amorim's possession strategy, both at Sporting but also last season at Manchester United, what we would usually see here is Shaw play the ball to Maguire circulate the ball to De Ligt, with De Ligt then completing the full circulation of the ball from the left side to the United right, with a pass up the line to Ahmad. And you can definitely see the benefit of doing this, as by circulating the ball from one side to the other, you now essentially enable Ahmad to create a 1v1 against Kerkez on this left side with plenty of space in behind the fullback for Ahmad to take advantage of in the 1v1. However, the issue with this would be that if De Ligt's pass up the line isn't highly efficient in terms of how quickly he's able to play the ball, and also in terms of the pace and also the direction at which it's played to Ahmad, then this could alter this opportunity from one where Ahmad's able to get the ball under control and turn and then face up Kerkez in the 1v1 to one where Ahmad's receiving the ball with his back to goal under immediate pressure from Kerkez, then putting Ahmad in a situation where he's gone from potentially having a 1v1 in isolation against a fullback, which would definitely be of a huge benefit, to now being in a 1v1 isolated against a fullback, but rather than turning to face a fullback, he's now actually being forced away from goal, and so the benefit now actually turns into a negative. And because he has very little support on this right side, unless he's able to wriggle around Kerkez and run on the inside, the probability of him losing possession simply from each pass, say from Maguire to De Ligt and then out to Ahmad, not being perfectly optimal, now could actually put United in a risky position, where Liverpool are able to counter-press Ahmad, winning the ball back and now being able to attack directly against United's back three. However, now with Amorim's changed ball progression strategy, the risk is significantly reduced, and so De Ligt doesn't even attempt to turn out and play the ball up the line. Instead, he goes straight back to Lamans in goal, who once again doesn't even look for the shorter pass out to the left, with Luke Shaw not even dropping into that position to open up the passing lane, showing how significant United's change in ball progression strategy has now become. And one significant advantage of this change in ball progression strategy is that now, rather than looking to play out from the back and having the wide centre-backs drop deeper, in order to firstly open up a passing lane directly from the goalkeeper, but secondly to also stretch the space between the opposition's defensive shape, which in theory sounds ideal, but only if you're able to actually exploit that space between the lines via quick passing through the centre of the pitch. However, if you drop the wide centre-backs deeper and subsequently the midfield double pivot, and you're unable to play through the pressure with shorter passing sequences, and you instead end up being forced to go long, then because you've had to drop your midfield double pivot as well as the two wide centre-backs deeper, there's now a massive amount of space in the centre of the pitch, which turns already low probability vertical passes upfield into even lower probability passes, because it's not just about retaining possession from the first pass, but also when it comes to the second ball and any loose balls in the centre of the pitch. And so now Amorim is instructing the wide centre-backs, but also the midfield double pivot, to hold higher positions, knowing that they're going long directly from Lammens, a goalkeeper, not even going to be looking to play out of pressure as they would initially do at the start of the season. And so the result of this is that Lammens goes long, which does concede possession because you've got Mbeumo fighting for the aerial duel against Van Dijk, very unlikely to win that first ball. But now, because the back line, particularly the two wide centre-backs and also the midfield double pivot, weren't dropping off into the defensive third to open up shorter passing sequences, they're able to push up the pitch a lot quicker now, and this reduces the vertical space, but also the horizontal space between the lines of what I would now call in this phase of play, United's transitional shape. And the reason I say transitional shape is because at this point in play, neither Liverpool or United have possession, and so you can't really refer to it as either a possession or a defensive shape. And so we've now seen Amorim sacrifice some control in possession, minimising the risk of losing the ball in dangerous positions, but also looking to try to take advantage of the chaos by maximising the probability of United winning that second ball and then being able to attack directly and exploit any space that's been created by this chaotic situation. And that's exactly what we see happen. Because the midfield double pivot have pushed high up the pitch, and the back line as well, you can see how vertically compact United are, continuing the low probability, minimise risk direct play even after Van Dijk wins the initial aerial draw against Mbeumo, and the result of this is that Van Dijk gets drawn into the chaos. And this is exactly what I mean by chaos, as Van Dijk gets drawn into the second aerial duel with Mbeumo and McAllister, and even though he does win the header, both McAllister and Mbeumo fall to the ground, and Van Dijk has been pulled out of the back line, expanding that space between Konate and Kerkez. But by pushing the midfield double pivot higher up the pitch from these longer passes, Amorim has increased the probability of United winning the second or loose ball, which is exactly what happens here, as Bruno Fernandes is positioned in front of Gakpo and Szoboszlai. But also, if you look on this right side, Ahmed is holding a very narrow position. Usually we're used to seeing him holding a wide position, looking to receive the ball on the outside of the fullback and isolate them in a 1v1, but by now holding a narrower position, this reduces the passing distance between him and Bruno Fernandes, and because he's sitting maybe about 10 yards deeper than Kerkez, when Bruno receives the ball, the pass straight out to Ahmad is on, and there's nothing Liverpool can do to close it off. But now we're able to see the benefit of using a narrow front three, where the individuals in that front three have the acceleration and pace to take advantage of space caused by chaos, but also the end product when they do get the opportunity inside of the box, and that's exactly what we see here. Mbeumo ends up on the floor, but he gets up quickly, and as Ahmad receives the ball, you can see that both Cunha and Mbeumo are accelerating into that space that has been explicitly created by drawing Van Dijk into that chaos. And whilst it is a positional mistake from Van Dijk individually, is Mbeumo's pace from central positions, as well as Ahmad's quality from right wing back, which is able to create this chance. And you can see United's front three are in the optimal positions in order to take advantage of any space in Liverpool's back four. With the front three all high and narrow in close proximity, Bruno Fernandes is also pushed up high, giving United a narrow diamond shape at the top of the pitch, with Ahmad and Dalot also now in optimal positions both in terms of their vertical position and their horizontal position, primarily because rather than having to drop deep and wide on the flanks and then make up that ground as United go long, now because United are focused on going along directly from the goalkeeper, they're able to take up optimal positions for when United do win the second or loose ball, which United don't do it initially, but then Bruno Fernandes regains possession, and this opens up the pass into Ahmad because of that high and narrow positioning, which United are able to take advantage of with Mbeumo's pace straight through the centre of the Liverpool back line. Ahmad's pass with the outside of his left boot is optimal both in terms of the weight of pass, the timing, but also the direction, Mbeumo's first touch is fantastic, and now he's in a high value goal scoring position, which he's able to take, and that all came from the controlled chaos and maximising the probability of winning second and loose balls, specifically caused by Amorim's change of ball progression strategy, moving to one that is reminiscent of the early 2000s or 1990s, rather than the Pep Guardiola De Zerbi influenced style of play that has been the tactical meta not just over the past few seasons, but really over the past decade and a half. And I think this goal was a perfect embodiment of why everyone was saying that Amorim had to adapt his style of play, and we're already seeing the benefits even after just a few games. So let me know what you think of the change of tactical meta, not just from Amorim individually, but also managers like Pep and others as a whole, going a lot more direct and vertical, and somewhat of a throwback to the 2000s and 1990s. Also, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. And if you do want to sign up to my Patreon, you can get a 7-day free trial. I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.